Hello, and welcome back to Hush Light Stories. Tonight, before the snow covers the tracks completely, there is just enough time to board a train made almost entirely of glass. So settle in, let your shoulders loosen, and if your thoughts have been louder than usual today, let this story carry them somewhere quieter. This is The Glass Train. You arrive at the station just after nightfall. It is smaller than you expected. Only one platform, one clock, one old iron bench wearing a neat white layer of snow. The mountains around the valley have already disappeared into blue-black winter shadow. Snow is falling in long, patient threads, not heavily, but steadily enough that the whole station feels wrapped in a quieter version of the world. At the end of the platform hangs a sign painted in dark green, Larkspur Crossing, and beneath it, in smaller gold letters, another line, for late travellers and heavier minds. You read it once, then again, not because it is confusing, but because it feels unusually specific, as though the station has been waiting for someone carrying exactly the sort of day you brought with you. There are unfinished conversations in your head. 3 possible tomorrows asking to be solved before sleep. An old embarrassment that returned for no useful reason. And that familiar exhaustion that comes not from movement, but from holding too many thoughts too tightly for too many hours. The platform lamp flickers once. The snow moves silver through the light. And then, very far down the track, something begins to glow. At first, it seems like ordinary headlamps in the storm, but as it approaches, the shape becomes stranger, more elegant, more impossible. A train emerges from the dark valley, and the carriages behind it are made of glass. Not fully transparent, not in a harsh or modern way. The glass is old and slightly silvered, catching the station light, the snowfall, and the dim moon above the mountains. Inside, each carriage burns a warm amber glow, as if every seat, every brass handle, every polished wooden table has been lit by evening lamps instead of electricity. The train slows without noise, harsher than a long winter sigh. Steam curls around the wheels. Snow settles on the roof and does not melt. When the doors open, warm light spills onto the platform. You catch the scent of cedar, tea, coal heat, and orange peel. A conductor steps down from the nearest carriage. He wears a navy coat with brass buttons and gloves the color of old chestnut bark. His expression is calm in the way that only very unhurried people ever seem to be. "You made it," he says, as though there had been some gentle doubt. You glance past him into the train. The windows hold the snow like moving lace. The seats inside are deep blue velvet. A lamp on a small table glows beside a porcelain cup. And farther down the carriage, the glass walls reflect the whole white night back upon itself. "Where does it go?" you ask. The conductor gives the smallest smile. "To Winter Harbor," he says. "By the time we arrive, most passengers have stopped carrying the day so tightly." You step aboard before your practical mind has the chance to object. The carriage is warmer than expected. Not overheated. Only held. Behind you, the station fades into the snow. Ahead of you, the glass train waits with the quiet confidence of something that has carried many restless people into softer nights before this one. The conductor takes your coat and hangs it on a polished brass hook near the door. Snow melts in tiny bright drops onto a tray of dark stone beneath it. You are the only passenger in this carriage, or perhaps the only one visible at first glance. The glass walls reflect light, and snow fall so gently that the room feels larger than it should, as though the train has borrowed extra space from the winter outside. The conductor gestures toward a seat by the window. "Please," he says. "The first part of the journey is better with tea." On the table beside the seat is a white porcelain cup already filled. Steam rises in soft silver curls. The scent is warm and quiet. Chamomile, perhaps. A little honey. Something deeper beneath it, like cedar warmed by firelight. The train begins to move. Not with a jolt, not even with the ordinary tug of departure, only with a smooth, almost floating motion, as though the tracks beneath the snow have decided to become softer for the night. Outside the glass, the station slips away. The bench, the lamp, the sign, all of it drifts backward into the white-blue dark until there is only forest and the silver movement of snowfall. The conductor settles into the seat across from you, without asking whether company is welcome. Something about the train makes his presence feel less like intrusion and more like part of the furniture of calm. "Do many people take this train?" you ask. "Only when they need to," he says. "And usually when they have waited longer than they should have before admitting it." You look down into your tea. The surface catches the lamp above and trembles once with the movement of the carriage. Outside, the forest deepens. Pines rise black against the snow. The moon appears, now and then, between clouds, pale and distant as a memory you no longer need to hold too tightly. The glass walls reflect the world so beautifully that every few moments it becomes difficult to tell whether the train is passing through the winter or carrying the winter inside it. On the small shelf beside your seat rests a narrow blue notebook and a brass pencil. "For later," says the conductor, noticing your glance. "Every passenger is asked to write down one thought before we reach the harbour." "Only one?" you ask. "Only the true one underneath the others," he says. The train has no interest in carrying your entire storm, just the center of it. The answer makes you smile despite yourself. There is something relieving in the suggestion that not every thought deserves equal authority. The conductor rises and adjusts a velvet curtain farther down the carriage. Beyond it, you glimpse another room lit by hanging lamps, with a narrow aisle, polished wood, and windows so clear the night seems almost to sit inside them. "We have time," he says. "Would you like to see the rest of the train before the snow thickens?" You set the cup down and stand. The carriage floor is carpeted in midnight blue, soft beneath your steps. The glass around you holds the snowy mountains like a moving dream. And with the first warmth of tea spreading through your chest, you follow him deeper into the train. The next carriage is quieter still, if such a thing is possible. Here the seats are arranged in pairs, facing tall glass panels that rise almost from floor to ceiling. Outside, the forest has opened into a long white valley, where the moonlight spreads across the snow like silk laid carefully over a bed. No one sits in the seats, yet each place appears prepared. A folded blanket, a cup on a saucer, a small reading lamp turned low. As though the train expects passengers not only in the ordinary sense, but in the quieter sense too. The conductor opens a door at the far end. Beyond it is the dining carriage, a long room of polished walnut wood, hanging amber lamps, silver teapots, and windows framed in dark brass. Snow glides along both sides of the train in pale, drifting streaks. The whole carriage feels less like public transport, and more like a room someone thoughtful prepared for winter conversations that need not be hurried. The ice fields stretch farther than you imagined anything could. The train crosses them on a raised line of dark steel, and beneath the wheels, the frozen land gleams faintly under the moon. Snow blows low across the surface in silver ribbons. Far away, dark mountains stand around the plain like patient witnesses. A small tray waits on one of the tables. Dark bread still warm at the middle, a little butter, sliced pears, a dish of blackcurrant preserve so dark it looks nearly blue beneath the lamp. You sit where the conductor gestures, and he pours more tea from a silver pot that somehow remains perfectly steady no matter how the train moves. Does the train always look like this? You ask. On winter nights? Yes, he says. Glass is kinder than walls when a person needs reminding that the world is wider than their thoughts. The sentence stays with you while you eat. Outside the window, a frozen river appears, winding through the valley like a strip of dim silver metal. Farther away, small lights dot the hillsides. Perhaps cottages, perhaps watch lamps, perhaps other places where tired people are trying to become quieter inside themselves. There is a comfort in moving through the night while remaining warm, a comfort in not having to choose between winter and shelter. When the meal is finished, the conductor leads you into a narrower carriage lined with shelves. At first you think it is a library car. Then you see that the shelves do not hold books. They hold small boxes, each labeled in careful gold handwriting. Regret, delay, what if, tomorrow before it arrives. The sentence you wish you had said differently. Old embarrassment made unnecessarily fresh. You let out a breath that almost becomes a laugh. The train, it seems, understands people a little too well. The conductor opens one of the boxes. Inside is not paper, but a folded square of blue cloth holding a tiny glass bead. The bead glows faintly, as though lit by moonlight from within. What is that? You ask. A thought that became small enough to be carried properly, he says. You look again at the labels, and then at the blue notebook tucked under your arm from the earlier carriage. Somewhere inside the crowd of your thoughts, the one true sentence is beginning to separate itself. Not ready yet, but nearer. The conductor closes the box gently. Then he opens the door to the next carriage, and colder blue light spills in. We're crossing the ice fields now, he says. This is usually where people stop trying so hard to hold everything together. The ice fields stretch farther than you imagined anything could. The train crosses them on a raised line of dark steel, and beneath the wheels, the frozen land gleams faintly under the moon. Snow blows low across the surface in silver ribbons. Far away, dark mountains stand around the plain, like patient witnesses. The carriage you have entered now is almost empty. Only a few deep chairs, a narrow stove, and wide glass walls turning the whole journey into a moving observatory of winter. You sit by the stove. Its warmth is different from the tea, more grounded, more architectural, as if it is not warming only the body, but giving shape to the evening. For a while, neither you nor the conductor speaks. The train glides forward. The snow continues to move, and gradually, almost without permission, the noise inside your mind begins to thin. Not because you force it, only because there is something larger to rest beside now. The glass, the horizon, the great white stillness outside. the sensation of being carried without having to decide anything for a little while. At last, the conductor nods toward the notebook in your lap. "Now, I think," he says. You open it. The paper is cream-colored and thick at the edges, soft beneath the brass pencil. The first page is blank except for one line at the top. What can survive being left until morning? The question is so direct, it almost feels gentle. No performance, no cleverness, just an invitation to stop pretending every thought deserves to be carried through the night. You begin to write. Not a page, not a confession, only one honest sentence. The sentence beneath the others, the true center of the day's weather. When you finish, you feel the strange and immediate relief that comes from giving a thought its proper size. It has not vanished. It has simply stopped pretending to be the whole sky. The conductor folds the page carefully and places it inside a narrow glass compartment beside the stove. Within the compartment hangs a blue light, no brighter than a firefly. As the paper settles inside, the light steadies. Blue becomes pale gold. "There," he says softly. "That's lighter already." "What happens to it now?" you ask. "The train carries it until the harbor," he says. By morning, most thoughts are willing to be smaller if they've been given a proper place to rest overnight. Outside, the frozen plain begins to change. Far ahead, a line of amber lights appears in the distance. Not many, just enough to suggest windows, lamps, and a town at the edge of the ice. "Winter Harbor," says the conductor. Almost there. By the time the train reaches the harbor, the snow has softened to a fine, white, drifting mist. The town is smaller than you imagined, and warmer than winter should reasonably allow. Amber windows glow along the waterfront. A line of old lamps reflects across dark water where the ice has not quite closed the channel. Small boats sleep beneath white covers. And at the far end of the quay stands a long inn with blue doors and a lantern hanging under the eaves. The glass train slows and stops. The conductor opens the door for you, and the harbor air meets you, cold, salty in a faint winter way, touched with wood smoke and bread still warm somewhere nearby. Across the platform there is no crowd. Only a woman in a dark coat standing beneath the inn lantern, as if she has been told exactly when the train would arrive. She greets the conductor with a nod and turns to you. "Welcome," she says. "You can sleep now. The harbor will keep the rest until morning." Her certainty is so calm that you do not question it. The inn is quiet inside. Blue rugs, pale lamps, a stove in the corner holding the whole room in a low red warmth. Your room is upstairs, beneath a sloping roof, with one round window facing the harbor water, and one narrow bed dressed in white linen, and a navy blanket heavy enough to feel reassuring. On the bedside table waits a small cup of warm milk tea. Beside it, a tiny glass bead glows pale gold. "Your thought," the woman says from the doorway. "The train made it small enough to carry properly. You can take it back tomorrow, but you need not sleep with it tonight." She leaves you alone with the bead, the tea, and the dark harbor beyond the round window. For a while, you simply sit on the edge of the bed and look out. The boats shift once in the water. A lantern on the quay moves gently in the wind. Snow continues to fall, but more slowly now, as if the whole town has agreed not to hurry anyone toward tomorrow. You hold the bead between two fingers. It is warm, much warmer than glass should be. And though you know it contains the same thought you wrote on the train, It no longer feels sharp enough to command the whole room. You set it beside the lamp, drink the tea, draw the blanket back, and lie down. The pillow is cool at the center and warmer at the edges. The blanket settles with a quiet weight over your chest. The harbor beyond the glass remains dim and safe, full of low lights and moving dark water. And perhaps because the train has done its work, your mind does not rush to fill the silence. It only watches the harbor once, then the lamp, then the bead beside it. After that, even your thoughts begin to understand the evening is over. Sleep approaches gradually, in the old gentle way. Not as a curtain falling, not as a command, only as the body's quiet decision to stop standing guard. You can still hear the harbor if you listen. A rope touching wood, a far-off creak from one of the boats, the hush of snow meeting the quay. But none of it asks anything from you. That, perhaps, is the deepest comfort of all. To be surrounded by a world that continues without needing your constant supervision. The thought you carried all day is still there, of course. It exists in the little golden bead beside the lamp. Tomorrow it will return to words. Tomorrow it may ask to be handled again. But tomorrow is not tonight. Tonight it has been given proper lodging. And so have you. Your breathing lengthens. Your shoulders sink deeper into the mattress. The small muscles across your forehead, your jaw, and behind your eyes begin at last to loosen their grip on the remains of the day. Somewhere below, perhaps, the conductor has already returned to the station with the glass train. Or perhaps the train rests now on a hidden siding beneath the snow, waiting for the next late traveller with a heavier mind than they ought to have to carry alone. Either way, the journey is finished. And there, in the small room above Winter Harbour, with snow moving softly past the round window, and a little gold thought resting peacefully beside the lamp instead of inside your chest, you finally do the kindest thing the night has been asking of you from the beginning. You let the day stop. You let the harbour keep watch. And while the boats drift gently below, and the snow softens the roofs, and somewhere far away, the tracks shine faintly beneath winter moonlight, you drift at last into the deeper quiet you had been looking for all along. Very softly, very safely, you fall asleep.